All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into male friendship, and we're going to ask a question that, yeah, it might push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Okay, so let's just cut right to the chase. Here's the core idea we're digging into today. For straight guy, getting physically intimate with a close male friend, we're talking mutual masturbation, maybe even oral sex, can actually be a practical, natural, and maybe even a good thing. Yeah, I know. That probably sounds pretty wild, right? But stick with me here, because there's some real logic behind it. A logic that pulls from history, from biology, and just the crazy pressures of modern life. So let's break it all down, and let's start with that first big question you're probably asking. Is this even normal? First things first, let's just go ahead and tear down that biggest assumption right away. The idea that this kind of thing is super rare or, just plain weird. Because when you look at the actual data, it tells a totally different story. 30%. Let that sink in. 30%. According to some pretty foundational research, like the work done by Kinsey, that's how many men who identify as straight have had at least one same-sex experience that ended in orgasm. So no, this is not some fringe thing that nobody does. It's way, way more common than most people think. And look, this isn't some new 21st century trend. Not at all. Historically, you see this stuff pop up all the time, especially in these really hyper-masculine, all-male worlds. Think about ancient Greek and Spartan soldiers. They were doing it to build a stronger bond, to create unit cohesion. Think about cowboys out on the range, sailors at sea for months. And it's not just history. A pretty recent study from 2018 found that 15% of frat guys reported some kind of same-sex play. Heck, it's not even just a human thing. Biologists have seen this in over 1,500 different species. It's just a way animals bond. Okay, so it happens. It's more common than we thought. But the next big question, and maybe it's the most important one, is what does it all mean? And this gets us to a really crucial point, the difference between what you do and who you are. Here's a really simple way to think about it, and it's a great analogy. It's kind of like trying sushi, right? You might absolutely love steak. It could be your favorite food. But trying one piece of raw fish doesn't suddenly redefine your entire diet. It's just an experience. It's not a whole new identity. So the whole argument really comes down to drawing a very clear line in the sand. On one side, what this is, a physical act, something that happens in a specific situation, a private thing between trusted friends to, bond. And on the other side, what it is not. It's not suddenly becoming gay. It's not about romance or deep emotions. It's not a fundamental change in who you are. And it's definitely not something that needs some big dramatic label. It's all about separating an action from an identity. The famous Kinsey scale showed us a long time ago that sexuality isn't just a simple on-off switch. It's a spectrum. A lot of people fall somewhere along a range. And while most guys identify as straight, their actual experiences might have some variety. And that's exactly why a man can have an encounter like this and still fundamentally be straight. All right, so we've talked about what it isn't, but why? Why would anyone actually do this? Well, according to this argument, there are some pretty practical, real-world upsides. First and foremost, it's a dead simple stress reliever. Think about it. Life, work, the pressure of dating, it all just builds and builds. And the physical release from an orgasm, that literally triggers a chemical change in your brain. You get a spike of dopamine, of oxytocin, and the results is pretty direct. Lower stress, you're in a better mood, you might even sleep better. It's just simple biology at work. And then there's just the basic health and safety of it all. A random hookup with a stranger, that can come with a higher risk of STIs, not to mention all the potential drama and emotional baggage. But the argument here is that doing this with a trusted friend you already know, well, the health risks are way lower, and the drama is basically zero. It's just a safer, cleaner, no-strings-attached option. And the bigger picture for your health is pretty staggering. There's real research that shows men who have sex regularly have a 50% lower risk of major heart problems. 50%. So this whole thing isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It's being framed as a practical way to actually take care of your long-term physical health. But this whole idea goes deeper than just the physical side of things. It's also being positioned as a way to forge a deeper kind of trust and to fight back against a really serious problem a lot of men are facing today. And what is that crisis? It's loneliness. It's a real epidemic. A recent study showed that a full 15% of American men, that's about 1 in every 7 guys, reported having 0 close friends. People are calling it a friendship recession, and it's a huge deal. And that's the backdrop for this whole conversation, you know? The need for deeper, maybe even unconventional, bonds. So how does something like this help with that? Well, the theory is pretty clear. Sharing something so intensely private builds an insane level of trust, an almost bulletproof bond. It's like a secret handshake that just skyrockets loyalty. And, really importantly, it lets you bypass that old, tired rule of traditional masculinity that says men can't show vulnerability or have emotional closeness. And you see, it all comes back to that idea we started with, the Spartan soldiers. The whole act is framed not as something romantic, but as something that strengthens the team, the unit, the brotherhood. It's about creating this incredibly strong, loyal bond. It's the same idea, the same vibe, just for our modern world. Okay, but let's be absolutely clear. None of this works, none of it is okay or ethical or safe without one single non-negotiable rule. This is the foundation that the entire thing has to be built on. Consent is king, period. It's the absolute cornerstone of this entire idea, both ethically and practically. Without clear, enthusiastic, freely given consent, this argument doesn't just fall apart, it becomes incredibly dangerous and just plain wrong. And let's be crystal clear about what that actually means. It has to be an enthusiastic yes from both people. This is a conversation you have. It's never, ever an assumption. There can be absolutely no pressure, no guilt trips, no coercion. Not ever. Respecting each other's boundaries is the only thing that makes any of this remotely safe or okay. And that really brings us to our final thought here. We've just walked through a pretty provocative argument, one that really challenges our typical ideas about friendship, about intimacy, stress, and loyalty between men. So we'll just leave you with this question to chew on. What if the unwritten rules we all follow for male friendship, what if they aren't actually protecting us? What if, in the end, they're just holding us back?